I didn't realize how thin hotel walls really were until 3 in the morning when I woke up to the sound of someone pacing the hallway like he was running laps with his thoughts. I had checked into the hotel late, the kind of place you pick because it's close to the airport and cheap enough that you don't ask questions. One night, maybe two, just a bed, a shower, and silence. That was all I wanted. I'd been traveling all day, my brain fried, my body aching in that dull way that only comes from too much sitting and not enough sleep. The room itself was fine. Beige carpet, stiff pillows, humming AC. I showered, threw my clothes over the chair, and collapsed onto the bed like a corpse. I was out within minutes. And then, footsteps. At first, I thought it was just someone passing by. Hotels are noisy. People come in late, drag suitcases, slam doors. I rolled over and pulled the pillow over my head. But the footsteps didn't fade. They stopped right outside my door, then started again. Slow. Measured. Back and forth. Heel. Toe. Heel. Toe. I checked my phone. 3:07 a.m. Seriously? I muttered to no one. The pacing went on for another minute, then two. No voices, no phone calls, just walking. Like whoever it was had nowhere else to put their energy. I finally sat up, annoyed now, listening more carefully. The sound wasn't frantic. It wasn't drunk either. It was controlled, intentional, almost restless, like sleep wasn't even an option for this person. Eventually, the footsteps moved farther down the hall and disappeared. I laid back down, heart still slightly elevated, and told myself that was it. It wasn't. At 3:42, I heard it again. This time closer. Much closer. Not just footsteps now. Keys. The soft jingle of metal. A door unlocking. A door locking again. Then movement inside the room next to mine. The walls were thin enough that I could hear the mattress creak, the faint thud of someone sitting down, then standing back up almost immediately. More pacing. This time inside the room. I stared at the ceiling, wide awake now, trying to piece together what kind of person doesn't sleep at all. Insomnia, sure, jet lag, anxiety, but there was something about the rhythm of it that felt deliberate, like he wasn't trying to sleep, like night was when he came alive. Around 4, I heard the door open again. I waited this time. Footsteps approached. Slowed, stopped, right outside my door. I held my breath without meaning to. There was a pause, long enough that my chest tightened before the footsteps moved on. Whoever it was continued down the hall and disappeared again. I didn't sleep after that. By morning, I looked like hell. Puffy eyes, stiff neck, the kind of exhaustion that makes coffee useless. I grabbed my things and headed downstairs, hoping to get out early and pretend the night hadn't happened. That's when I saw him. He was standing near the coffee station in the lobby, wearing a black t-shirt and jeans like he'd never been to bed. Dark hair, slightly messy, like he'd run his hands through it too many times. He had that look, alert but tired, calm but wired. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. Tall, broad shoulders. And when he turned slightly, I saw the room number printed on his key sleeve. The room next to mine. He caught me looking. Our eyes met for just a second too long. No smile, no apology. Just a quiet, assessing look, like he was wondering if I'd heard him last night. And somehow, I knew this wasn't a one-night thing. This man didn't sleep. I should have just grabbed my coffee and left. That would have been the normal thing to do. A nod, maybe a polite half smile. Then out the door and back into my own life. Hotels are liminal spaces. People pass through, intersect for a moment, then vanish. That's the unspoken rule. But he didn't look away. Most people do. Especially in the morning. Especially with strangers. But his eyes stayed on mine, calm and unreadable, like he was measuring something. Or someone. I cleared my throat and turned toward the coffee machine, suddenly very aware of how bad I must have looked. He stepped closer at the same time, reaching for a cup. The space between us shrank to nothing. "Rough night?" he asked. His voice was lower than I expected. Not groggy, not apologetic, just steady. I hesitated. There it was, the opening. I could pretend I didn't know what he meant. Or I could be honest. "Yeah," I said finally. "You?" He let out a short breath through his nose. Not quite a laugh. More like acknowledgement. "Don't really sleep," he said. I glanced at him, trying not to be obvious. Up close, he smelled faintly like soap and something clean, not stale or sweaty despite the pacing. His eyes were darker than I'd thought. Focused. "Ever?" I asked. "Not much," he replied. "Night's quieter." That was it. No explanation. No awkwardness. He poured his coffee like this was the most normal conversation in the world. I nodded slowly. "Your room's next to mine." "I know." That got my attention. He turned toward me then, finally facing me fully. There was something direct about the way he stood. Relaxed, but grounded, like he wasn't afraid of taking up space. "Hope I didn't keep you up," he added. Not defensive. Just factual. "You did," I said, surprising myself with the honesty. "But I was curious." A corner of his mouth lifted. "Barely. Most people are," he said. "They just don't say it." We stood there in silence for a second too long. The lobby buzzed around us. Elevator dings, a couple arguing quietly near the front desk. But it felt like we were in our own pocket of stillness. "I'm Clinton," he said, holding out his hand. I took it. His grip was warm, firm, but not crushing. I told him my name. "Just in town for a night?" he asked. "2, maybe 3, I said. "You?" "Longer." There was something in the way he said it that made me think he hadn't decided yet whether that was good or bad. I checked my phone, mostly as an excuse to break eye contact. I had time. No rush, and suddenly no desire to leave. "Well," I said, lifting my cup slightly, "I'm going to take this upstairs and attempt to function." He nodded. "If you want quiet, I'll try to keep the pacing to a minimum." I smiled despite myself. "I don't mind. It's different." His eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up. Subtle. But I caught it. "Yeah," he said softly. "It is." We rode the elevator together. Silence again, but a different kind now. Not awkward. Charged. When the doors opened on our floor, he stepped out first, then paused. "Hey," he said, turning back to me. "If I'm up tonight, and you are too," he didn't finish the sentence. "Yeah," I said. "Okay." That night, I lay in bed listening again. But this time, when I heard the footsteps, I didn't feel annoyed. I felt awake. I didn't sleep. Not because of the footsteps. Those came and went, softer this time, like Clinton was trying to keep his promise, but because my brain wouldn't shut up. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed the way he looked at me in the lobby. Calm. Curious. Like he'd already decided I was worth paying attention to. Around midnight, I heard his door open. Not pacing this time. Just the quiet click of the lock, then footsteps moving away, and stopping right outside my door. I sat up in bed, heart thudding. There was a pause. Longer than before. I imagined him standing there, hand hovering near the door, debating. I wondered if he could hear my breathing, if he knew I was awake. A soft knock. Not loud. Not hesitant either. Just enough. I got out of bed without thinking, patted across the carpet, and opened the door. Clinton stood there barefoot, wearing gray sweatpants and the same black t-shirt from earlier. The hallway lights cast shadows along his jaw, his eyes darker at night, more intense. "Couldn't sleep," he said. "Figured." I replied. Another pause, this one heavier. "Mind if I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. The door closed behind him with a quiet click that sounded louder than it should have. My room felt smaller instantly. Warmer. He glanced around like he was cataloging details. The unzipped bag on the floor, my phone charging on the nightstand, the half-empty water bottle. "You travel a lot?" he asked. "Enough," I said. "You?" "Used to." We stood there awkwardly for a second, like two people unsure where to sit in a room that suddenly mattered. I gestured toward the chair, but he shook his head. "I'll pace if I sit," he said. That made me smile. He moved slowly, not restless now, just thoughtful, like he was letting the night stretch instead of fighting it. "So," I said, leaning against the edge of the bed, "what keeps you up?" He stopped walking. For a moment, I thought he might dodge the question. Instead, he looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "Everything's louder at night. Thoughts, wanting, regret." I swallowed. "That's a lot." "Yeah," he agreed, "but it's honest." Silence again, thick, but not uncomfortable. I noticed how close he was standing now, not invading my space, just near. "You don't seem bothered by it," he added. "By you not sleeping?" "By me." I met his gaze. "I wouldn't have opened the door if I was." Something shifted then, subtle but real. His shoulders relaxed, like he'd been holding tension he hadn't realized was there. "Good," he said quietly. He resumed pacing, slower now, like he was aware of me watching. I didn't pretend I wasn't. Every movement felt intentional, even when it probably wasn't. After a while, he stopped again, closer this time. Close enough that I could feel his presence, the heat of him. "You can tell me to leave," he said. "I won't be offended." I shook my head. "Don't." His eyes flicked down, then back up. "Okay," he said. We didn't touch, but the space between us felt charged, like it was waiting for something, and I had a feeling that whatever it was, neither of us was going to sleep until it happened. The clock on the nightstand ticked over to 1:18 a.m. Neither of us mentioned it, but we both noticed. Night had fully claimed the room now. Outside, the city had quieted to that low, distant hum, cars passing far away, an occasional siren, nothing urgent. Clinton shifted his weight, then finally stopped pacing. "Can I sit?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, a little too quickly. "Sure." He chose the edge of the bed instead of the chair. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that I could feel the mattress dip. The air between us changed again, denser somehow, like we'd crossed an invisible line. "This is usually the part where people ask more questions," he said, "or get uncomfortable." "And you?" I asked. "I usually leave before that happens." I studied his profile, the tension in his jaw, the way his hands rested loosely on his thighs, fingers still, like he was deliberately keeping them that way. "Well," I said, "I'm not uncomfortable." He glanced at me, searching. "Why not?" I shrugged. "Because you don't feel dangerous, just restless." That earned a quiet huff of laughter. That might be the nicest thing anyone's said about me in a while. We sat there, shoulders almost brushing now. I could feel the warmth of him through the thin fabric of his shirt. Every movement felt amplified. The way he breathed, the way I shifted slightly closer without fully committing to it. "You ever feel like nighttime tells the truth?" he asked suddenly. I thought about it. About hotel rooms and strangers and the strange honesty that comes when you know there's an expiration date. "Yeah," I said, "like there's less to lose." He nodded. "Exactly." Another pause. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Go ahead." "Why did you open the door?" I didn't answer right away. The honest response came too fast, too clear. "Because I wanted to see if you were real," I said, "or if I'd imagined all of it." His gaze softened. "And?" "You're real." He turned toward me fully then. Our knees brushed. Neither of us moved away. "I don't usually do this," he said quietly. "Neither do I," I replied. It wasn't a promise, just a shared confession. The silence stretched, but this time it felt intentional, expectant. My heart beat harder, not from fear, but from the awareness that something was about to happen. Not necessarily something physical, but something that would change the tone of the night forever. Clinton leaned back slightly, giving me space instead of taking it. "Tell me to stay," he said. "Or tell me to go." I looked at him, really looked at him, the man who didn't sleep, who paced hallways to keep his thoughts from swallowing him whole. "Stay," I said. He did, and for the first time since I had checked into that hotel, the night felt less lonely and a lot more alive. We sat there for a while after that, not talking, not the awkward kind of silence, more like the kind where words would have ruined it. Clinton leaned back on his hands, head tilted slightly toward the ceiling, like he was listening to something only he could hear. I watched him from the corner of my eye, trying not to overthink every breath, every shift of fabric. "You know what's funny?" he said eventually. "What?" "I sleep better when someone else is awake." I turned toward him. "That doesn't make sense." He smiled faintly. "Most things about me don't." I laughed under my breath. The tension eased just a little. Enough to breathe. He glanced at the other side of the bed. "Mind if I lay down?" I promised not to pace. I hesitated for half a second, then nodded. "Okay." He kicked off his sweatpants shoes, well, imaginary shoes, since he was barefoot already, and lay back on the bed, hands folded on his chest, staring up. He deliberately left space between us. That mattered. I stayed seated for a moment, then lay down too, mirroring him, side by side. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the mattress rise and fall with his breathing. The ceiling fan hummed softly above us. "This feels oddly intimate," I said. "Yeah," he replied. "That's the night talking." We both smiled. Minutes passed. Maybe more. Time got fuzzy, stretched thin by exhaustion and adrenaline. At some point, my arm brushed his. I froze instinctively, ready to pull away. He didn't. Instead, he shifted just enough that our arms rested against each other fully now. Warm, steady. "Is this okay?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I said, just as quietly. His fingers twitched once like they wanted to move but didn't. The restraint in that tiny gesture did more to me than any bold move could have. "I don't usually let people see me like this," he said. "The pacing, the restlessness, most people think it's unsettling." "I think it's human," I replied. "Messy, but honest." He turned his head toward me. Our faces were closer now. I could see the exhaustion in his eyes layered over something softer. "You make it easier," he said. Something in my chest tightened. "So do you." We stayed like that, suspended in the quiet, until his breathing changed. Slower, deeper. I realized, with a strange mix of surprise and warmth, that he was drifting. The man who didn't sleep was falling asleep next to me. I didn't move. Didn't want to break whatever fragile peace he'd found. I lay there listening to him breathe, the hallway silent for the first time all night, and when my own eyes finally closed, I realized something else. For the first time in a long while, neither of us was pacing the night alone. I woke up to sunlight and the unmistakable feeling of warmth beside me. For half a second, I forgot where I was. The beige hotel curtains glowed softly, the hum of traffic filtered up from the street below, and my body felt heavier, in a good way. Relaxed. Grounded. Then I remembered Clinton. I turned my head slowly. He was still there. Sometime during the night we'd shifted closer. Not tangled, not dramatic, but close enough that our shoulders touched fully now, his arm resting along his side, his hand just inches from mine. His face was relaxed in sleep, brow smooth, lips slightly parted like his body had finally let go of something it had been gripping for a long time. The man who didn't sleep had slept. Because of me. The thought hit me harder than I expected. I stayed still, afraid that even breathing too deeply might wake him. I studied the details: faint stubble along his jaw, the slow rise and fall of his chest, the way his fingers twitched once, like he was dreaming, a quiet, intimate moment that felt way bigger than a hotel room should allow. Eventually, his eyes fluttered open. He blinked a few times, disoriented, then focused on me. "Oh," he murmured. "Hey," I said softly. For a split second, panic flickered across his face, like he was bracing for embarrassment or regret, but it faded almost immediately, replaced by something warmer. "You did." He exhaled, long and slow, then let out a quiet laugh. "That never happens." "Well," I said, "guess I should add that to my resume." He turned onto his side, facing me fully now, close enough that I could see my reflection faintly in his eyes. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not asking me to explain everything, for not trying to fix me." He hesitated, then added, "For letting me just exist." My chest tightened. "You don't need fixing." He held my gaze like he was committing the moment to memory. Outside, someone laughed in the street. A door slammed somewhere down the hall. Daytime noises. Reality creeping back in. "I should probably go," he said reluctantly. "Before this turns into something we didn't plan." I nodded, though part of me didn't want him to move. "Yeah, probably." He sat up slowly, then paused. "I'm glad it was you." "Me too." At the door, he hesitated, hand on the handle. "If you're still here tonight," he said, "I probably won't pace." I smiled. "And if you do," he smirked, "you'll know where to find me." The door closed softly behind him. I lay back against the pillow, staring at the ceiling, heart still warm, still buzzing. I'd booked the hotel for convenience. I hadn't expected to meet someone who made the night feel less heavy, and I had a feeling this wasn't the last sleepless night we'd share. I should have checked out that afternoon. That was the plan. Pack up, grab a ride, move on. Let the hotel become just another anonymous stop on a long list of places I barely remembered. But I didn't. I extended my stay. I told myself it was practical. Meetings rescheduled, flights expensive, but I knew the truth. I wanted one more night, not even with expectations, just possibility. The day passed slowly, too slowly. I worked from the small desk by the window, answered emails I barely read, drank bad hotel coffee, and stared out at the street more than necessary. Every sound in the hallway made my attention spike. Every elevator ding made me glance at the door. By evening, the familiar quiet settled in again. Night I showered, changed into a clean t-shirt, and lay back on the bed, phone in hand, pretending to scroll while listening. Waiting at 11:46 p.m., I heard it. Not pacing. A, door opening. Then another footsteps. Slow. Careful. They stopped outside my room. This time, there was no knock. Just the soft click of a keycard being removed from the lock next door, and then silence. I waited. Counted my breaths. Wondered if I was imagining it. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown contact. You awake? I stared at the screen, heart jumping into my throat. Me. Yeah. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Clinton doors unlocked. I didn't hesitate. I slipped into the hallway barefoot, the carpet cool under my feet, and crossed the few steps between our rooms. His door opened before I even raised my hand. He stood there in the dim light, wearing a hoodie this time, hair still damp like he'd just showered. His eyes softened when he saw me. "You came," he said. "Of course I did." He stepped aside, letting me in, and closed the door quietly behind me. The room was darker than mine, curtains drawn tight, lamp casting a low amber glow. Calm. Intentional. He didn't pace. Instead, he leaned back against the desk, arms crossed loosely, watching me like he was grounding himself just by having me there. "I didn't sleep last night because I was tired," he said. "I slept because I felt safe." The word landed heavy. "I don't want to rush this," he added. "Whatever this is." I nodded. "Me neither." We moved closer naturally, like gravity was doing the work for us. When he reached out this time, it wasn't tentative. His hand brushed mine, fingers threading gently, like he was checking in with every movement. I squeezed his hand once. Permission. He exhaled, forehead resting briefly against mine. No kiss yet, just closeness, breath, presence. "Stay," he murmured. I did. And somewhere between the quiet touches, the shared warmth, and the night folding itself around us again, I realized something clear and steady. Some people don't sleep because they're broken. Some people stay awake because they're waiting. And that night, neither of us was waiting anymore. Morning came quietly this time. No jolt. No confusion. Just the slow awareness of another body near mine, and the soft gray light seeping through the edges of the curtains. Clinton was awake already. I could tell by the way he was still, deliberately so, like he didn't want to disturb the moment. "You okay?" I asked softly. He turned his head toward me. "Yeah, just thinking. Dangerous territory for you," I teased. He smiled, real and unguarded. "Only a little." We lay there, talking in fragments. Not the big stuff. No life stories or promises, but small, honest pieces, where he'd lived before. Why hotels felt easier than apartments. How nights used to feel endless until recently. "Until you," he said, not making a big deal out of it. I felt that one settled deep. Eventually, reality did what it always does. Checkout times. Messages from the outside world. The sense that this place, this bubble, had an expiration date. Clinton sat up, rubbing his face. "I hate this part." "The leaving?" I asked. "The naming it," he said. "Deciding what it means." I thought about that, about how some moments don't need definitions to matter. "Maybe it doesn't have to mean everything," I said. "Maybe it just means something good happened." He considered it, then nodded. "I like that." We packed slowly, no rush, even though there was one. At the door, he hesitated again, like he had every time, but this time, he didn't look restless. "Will you sleep tonight?" I asked. He smiled softly. "I think so." "Good. And you?" he asked. I thought about the nights ahead. Quiet rooms, no footsteps, no pacing. "I think I'll be okay," I said. "But I won't forget." Neither would he. We exchanged numbers. No dramatic promises, just a look that said this wasn't nothing. Then he pulled me into a brief, firm hug. Grounding. Real. When I watched him walk down the hall, I noticed something was missing. No pacing, no restlessness. Just steady footsteps moving forward. And for the first time, the hotel felt like exactly what it was meant to be. A place you pass through, changed in a way no one else can see.